All right, hey guys, Tex here. I've been playing a lot of Stellaris lately. It's a game that I've had since it came out, and they've continually updated it and improved it over the years. It's been out for, I don't know, like 10 years, and there's tons of DLCs they've released for it. I have all the DLCs just because I love the game, but I was asked, like, what are the top DLCs that you should absolutely get, because it obviously can get expensive to buy them all. This list is pretty good. It's 2 years old, but it's still pretty good on Reddit here. And I would agree with this. Like, absolutely, the top four here, like, must have. I just can't imagine playing the game without these. Like, Utopia adds mega structures, which is awesome in the late game. Apocalypse adds titans and, the cracking, the ships that you can crack planets with and stuff. That's really cool. Megacorp adds an entirely different government type, like a mega corporation instead of like a democracy or authoritarian and stuff like that. Just you can play as like a mega corporation, and you can build branch offices on other empires' planets. It's just a totally different way to play the game, which is awesome. And then Galactic Paragons is a complete rework of the leader system, and I just can't imagine playing without it, since then now leaders actually matter. And you have a council. You put your leaders on the council. You have council agendas that are incredibly powerful things that you can utilize to make your empire stronger. So really, absolutely must have those top four. I would agree with that. And then the next four, I would also agree with. And if you like to play as machines, Synthetic Dawn is really up here on the top, must have. And then it's not on this list, but it's a newer DLC called the Machine Age. I would also add that to the top of the list too, if you really like to play as a machine. But still really great, at least in the second list for sure. Nemesis is for waging war against everyone. This one allows you to essentially become the crisis instead of just waiting for a crisis to happen at the end of the game. You yourself can destroy the galaxy, or there's a lot of different options there. Federations is really cool because it's not just about like joining or creating a federation with another empire in the game, but also guarantees the creation of the galactic community, which, the whole diplomatic aspect of Stellaris with the galactic community adds a whole nother level of depth to it. So federations, and there's more that goes to it, like Juggernauts, I think, is in that one. So, and then Overlord, if you like having vassals, but again, there's more that goes along with that DLC that makes it worth it. The rest of these are pretty much all good. The only one that's kind of annoying is the Cosmic Storms. Like, it's you definitely don't need it, but if you love the game, eventually just wait for a sale and you can get pretty much all these for pretty cheap. So this is a pretty good list to get you going. Absolutely, these top four, as I said. For me, I'm just going to try to go through as quickly as I can. Like, one of my favorite builds, often called like a meta build, to get you started in the game. So instead of just going with the familiar and comfortable United Nations of Earth, this is obviously the default empire that they created for that. You can click on edit and you can change it up to make it more suited to being a more powerful build. And this is what I like to play right here. So starting at the top, for government, we are a democracy. And the reason we're going that route is because we get that plus 10% faction approval is the biggest part. And factions are going to generate unity. And unity is so important in this game, especially in the early game, because it allows you to power through all of your traditions and your ascension perks, which makes your empire incredibly powerful. So traditions and ascension perks bought with unity is so important in the early game. And really, obviously, for the whole game, it sets you up for the whole game. So, but getting through those in the early game is so important. So this build is going to focus on generating a lot of unity right at the start of the game to allow us to knock out our traditions and transition into a tech rush, which with any game like this, obviously researching tech and everything along with growing your economy is all part of it and all very important. Going to ethics, egalitarian, we get faction resource output. Again, think of it as unity generation plus 25% there. Specialist pop resource output is also great, plus 5%. That's going to be your scientist, for example. So you're going to get an increase in your scientist output capacity, as well as pops that generate alloys for building ships and consumer goods, which scientists use and your pops in general use. So that's a good one to have. Xenophile is going to give us an increase in trade, which in the new Stellaris 4.0 versions, trade is a lot more important, and so that's going to be very helpful for us. It's also going to allow us to be more friendly with other empires in the galaxy. We can be diplomatic, or it just gives you more options to play. It's a good pick. Materialist. Big one there is research speed plus 5%. Obviously, if you want a tech rush, anything you can do to increase research speed is good. And then robot upkeep reduction is nice because as soon as we can research it, we want to be building robots. The name of the game is growing or producing pops as quickly as possible. The quicker you can produce pops, the quicker they can work jobs, the quicker your economy is going to grow, the quicker your science is going to grow. Everything becomes a snowball effect from there. So it's all about pops. It's prioritizing pop growth as quickly as possible is key. Civics. Parliamentary system gives us factions right out of the start of the game. So essentially we get that unity creation or unity generation from our factions right at the start of the game, and a whopping plus 40% from faction resource output. And we can change these later in the game too. So it's a good start. Parliamentary system, great way to get your game kicked off to increase that unity output. Masterful Crafters is another good one because we convert artisans who traditionally just turn minerals into consumer goods into artificers. They turn minerals into consumer goods and trade. And trade is going to be really, really helpful, especially in the early game, to help get your economy up and going. We can use trade to buy and sell, things that we need on the marketplace, for example. So it's just a lot more powerful. It's a lot more important in Stellaris 4.0. So for the species, of course, human, we have changed the traits. And obviously, this is revolving around sort of a tech rush here. You've got intelligence, plus 10% research jobs. Natural engineers, probably the most important research between physics, society, and engineering for a species like this, assuming not like the biogenesis type story pack. So engineering research is going to be for like your ships and your economy, your buildings and things. It's a very important category, plus 15% there. And then rapid breeders, again, playing into how important pops are and quickly growing pops, plus 10% pop growth speed. Now we have to balance some things out with some negative traits. Job efficiency for influential jobs is minus 20%. That's your politicians. That's elite jobs, politicians, entertainers. We don't really care as much about those people. They don't really produce super great resources for us, and we're not going to be working too many of those jobs, so we can take that hit. And then solitary pop housing usage is plus 10%. Now, these can be changed once you start playing the game. That's the nice thing about it. You can research how to change and modify your species traits. So you could remove these negative traits if you wanted to. You could add different positive traits. So this can be changed. Not a big deal. Great way to start the game. Origin, the generic prosperous unification, gives us a huge boost to pops right out of the start of the gate. And then we get an increase in resource output on our homeworld, I think for like the first 25 years. So it's just a great way to start the game. So we'll start that out. I would recommend... They're still working out some lag issues in the late game because of the ships and stuff. So either play on a tiny or a small galaxy. Elliptical is good. Difficulty's up to you. Grand Admiral's not that hard if you do it in the way that I'm doing it, but you could always decrease that to whatever you need to. I like hyperlane density at 0.75. It's going to give you a little less hyperlanes and more choke points. And choke points are key for defense and defense planning. I like to max out the AI empires, just give you a little bit more variety, but that's up to you. Advanced AI starts means that one of the AI empires is going to be like a little bit ahead of you in the game. So if you're new, maybe just turn that off. Fallen empires, I'd keep that at 1. And in advanced settings, you can choose your crisis type. Probably just do random. Crisis strength, you could leave it at 0.75. It shouldn't be too bad. And then this is the key one here, especially if you're playing on Grand Admiral. I would do scaling difficulty mid-game. So basically, it's not going to give the AI any of the bonuses that they would normally get on Grand Admiral until the mid-game. It more simulates how they play online games. So that's a good way to play. If you want to make it really hard, just turn that off. So I like to play mid-game. And then AI aggressiveness is normal. Pretty much everything else is mostly default, except if you want a faster game, you could reduce technology cost and tradition cost to 0.25, so it won't cost as much to research the technology and your traditions. I kind of go for the middle ground and go for 0.75. I think they play 0.75 online, so I do 0.5, I should say. Let's see, the rest of it I think is pretty much defaults. Looks like default here, your precursors. You can choose what you want there. Mid-game start year, I would probably do, for the end game, something like this. Do... 2300 for the mid game, and in game 2350. I believe default it looks like this. Mid game is 23, end game is 24, and then your victory year is 25. So it's really up to you. Generally, I like my mid game to start a little bit earlier, so I'll just do 23 for the mid game, and for the end game I'll do 2350. And then for the victory year, I just turn that off. I don't really, it just at that year, whatever empire has the strongest economy and the strongest science and fleets, et cetera, like quote wins the game. But you can still keep playing past the victory year, so it's kind of a pointless thing. Anyway, so that's how I do that. And then depending on what DLCs you have, you can adjust settings here. I would do Marauder Empires as 1, and if you do have the Storm DLC, I turn off on the early game because it's just super annoying, and the rest of it I leave as default. All right, so as soon as you spawn in the game, of course we are playing as humans, so we're here in the solar system. You've got Earth and Mars and all the familiar planets. First thing I do is like to just come out and see where I'm at in the galaxy, and if I can see any of my 2 guaranteed habitable worlds right out of the gate. It looks like we have an alpine world here. We need a continental world. Here's our first continental world right here. And so when I look at this is actually a great place to be. This is an excellent spawning point. We're out towards the edge of the galaxy, and you can see that our home world is kind of in the middle between all these stars. So we have, from what it looks like, is this one single choke point right here, Alpha Centauri. So anyone who wants to come in and attack us has to come through this star system right here. So we could really build up an incredible defense position here and protect our homeworld from potential invasion from outside. So this is the first thing I like to look at, just kind of get my strategic position of what's going on and where I need to go to start surveying, to start expanding my empire right out of the gate. So before we unpause the game, since we're talking about it, I'll just grab my science ship, and then I'll right click on this first star system here and survey that. I want to go there immediately. Next thing I'll do is I'll grab my military fleet. I'll split it like this and grab the one that has the commander, and I'm going to send him out to explore. In fact, we could just send him over here while the science ship is busy surveying here to start with, just to see what's over here. And then I want to send him out here and start exploring outside of the galaxy while my science ship is busy surveying the systems that I need to capture immediately right around our home base. Now, this next thing I'm going to do is come up here and go to research. Now, what I like to do is I like to focus on the first picks. I like to focus on research. And what you're looking for are these buildings, these research buildings. There's one for each category that is effectively going to double your research once you build them. So for physics, it's quantum computing. So we want to research that. For society, looks like we drew it here, luckily enough, xenobiological lab. And for engineering, awesome. So this is a great start. So we got all 3 of those buildings by luck on that. So that's, if you get them, that's the first picks I'd take every time. They're a little expensive, but it's going to be worth it once you get those built on your planet. All right, next thing that I do is I come up here and I go to the government, and I just take a look at my leaders on my council. Now, one thing that I didn't mention is that when I set up this build for my leader, I chose them to be a scientist, and I gave them the Spark of Genius trait. That gives us research speed plus 3%. The reason being is because we can also, in addition to having them as our chancellor, we can also have another scientist on here with that same trait, and they stack on top of each other. So if we go and look at recruitable leaders, go to scientist, look right here, we have a scientist with that trait. So I can't recruit them yet. I have 5 years to save up enough unity to recruit them. That won't be a problem. As soon as I do, I'm going to recruit that scientist, and I'm going to plop them right here in place of this scientist that does not have any council traits. So leaders have different traits, okay? Sometimes they're just unique to that specific leader, and other times they're a council trait. And you can tell when they're a council trait because they'll kind of have like this little yellow part underneath the trait. So this, for example, is just for this leader. It gives this leader lifespan plus 20 years. This leader has a council agenda speed plus 10%, and then it also has a unique trait to the specific leader that when you put this leader on a planet, you get these benefits like planetary infrastructure upkeep reduction, and infrastructure build speed increase, okay? And then they can also get negative traits. So you can see here, this one has leader experience gain minus 25%. So what you want is you want to stack, obviously, all of your leaders on your council that have council traits. That's the goal. All right, so looking at that, that's good. I know what I'm going to do from there. Next thing I'm going to do is come over to policies and edicts. I'm going to go to diplomatic stance, and I'm going to change this to isolationist. That's going to give us monthly unity plus 10%. Yes, it does come with some negatives there, like diplomatic weight reduction. Border friction is plus 200% instead of 100% on expansionist. And you would think expansionist would be good because you get a reduction to outpost build cost and colony development speed, but that plus 10% unity is absolutely huge. So it's totally worth going that route. So we'll go ahead and do that. And then I know that our factions are going to want benevolent vassalage. You don't have to change it now. You could wait till your factions form. But they're, with our government type, they're almost always going to want benevolent vassalage. So I'll just go ahead and change it now. And anytime you change a policy, it's going to warn you that you can't change it back to something else for another 10 years. So just take that into consideration. All right, so that is done. Now the next thing I'm going to do is come up here and click anywhere. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I am running a mod. It's called the Overhaul UI, Dynamic Overhaul UI, I believe it is. You can search for it in the Steam Workshop. It's totally worth it. It really improves the UI of the game. So that's why mine probably looks a little bit different than yours. All the same information's there. It's just laid out differently. Anyways, come up to the top and click on any one of your resources, which, by the way, these are all your key resources, obviously. Click on that. That's going to open the market. And the first thing I'm going to do is start a new monthly trade. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go buy. I want to buy minerals, and I'm going to click the control key to increase it by increments of 10. And the most minerals you can buy without inflation kicking in is 42. You're not going to be able to buy that many initially. You can see that we're producing plus 33 trade per month here. Okay, so it's going to cost us trade to buy things. If we sell things, it's going to give us trade. So I'm going to start out with, like, let's just try 20, see if we can get away with that. All right, we'll add that. So every month we're going to be buying 20 minerals. In the early game, minerals are king. Like, minerals are probably one of the most important resources that you need. It costs minerals to build things on your planet. So as your pops are growing and you need to build a building or a district for them to work jobs, you need minerals to do that, okay? So if you hover over this, you can see consumed, also jobs, the jobs your pops are working cost minerals. So if you hover over any one of these resources, you can see where it's being produced and where it's being consumed. But without minerals, your economy is dead in the tracks. Like, you can't do anything. In fact, if you were to be in a situation like you're at war and you're losing planets left and right, and you're trying to fight back, you're trying to build up your economy and build up your fleets and everything. If you run out of minerals, you're dead. You're just dead. Like, you have to have minerals. It's so key in the early game, so always keep that in mind. Prioritize minerals in the early game to get your economy up and going. All right, now that that is done, the next thing that I'm going to do is, I think we're just about ready to unpause the game. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Just real quick before we do, just taking a look at our planet here. The key metrics are right here across the top. I'm not going to really spend too much time going into this because I'm trying to make it as quick as possible. But the most important ones you want to pay attention to is stability. Keep it above 50%. As long as you're above 50%, you're getting a boost to your output. When it drops below 50%, you start getting a reduction to your output from the jobs that are being worked on your planet. So above 50% is key. Crime, keep it below 30%. As long as it's below 30%, then you're not going to have any events happen. Above 30%, and you're going to have problems. Housing, you want to just keep it positive. The higher the number, generally, the better for your pop growth, but just keep it positive. If your housing goes negative, your stability is going to drop, crime's going to come up. It snowball effects from there, okay? Amenities is your pops need that to be happy. You just want a positive number. You just want enough amenities and enough housing that your stability is above 50% and you don't have crime above 30%. I mean, that's the minimums you're looking for. This is just telling you how many jobs are available. In a perfect world, this should be 0. If you have a bunch of jobs available, then it's costing you money to essentially have those buildings or those jobs uninhabited or unworked, and so you don't want that. So you want to build out your planet. You want to keep building it all the time, but you only want to build out what can be worked, essentially. So if we go and look at economy, you can see the breakdown, and this is where you could really min-max things if you wanted to. You don't have to, but this is where you could. You have your elites, your politicians, you have your specialists, it's your scientists, your bureaucrats that generate unity, enforcers, of course, for crime, entertainers, which produce amenities, traders, which produce trade, and then you have your metallurgists, of course, producing alloys, which is going to be key for building ships and star bases and whatnot. And then since we took that, we have artificers here instead of artisans, but it's the same thing, essentially producing consumer goods and trade in our example. And then your workers. So this is your technicians producing energy, your miners producing that key minerals, and then, of course, farmers for food. Food is just one of those things that you want to just produce enough to keep your pops fed. You don't want a huge surplus in food, okay? And then you have civilians. So any pops that you have that aren't working jobs will filter into the civilian category. Now, it does cost food and consumer goods, as with for all of your pops. It does cost food and consumer goods for your civilians, but they are producing trade and they are producing amenities. And because we took egalitarian, we could actually have these civilians producing science and unity for us if we wanted to. You can go to your species tab. You can select here, and do I have to unpause the game? If you go to set species rights, you can go to living standards, and you have utopian abundance right here. So if you choose utopian abundance, you can see right here it says civilians will produce unity and research points. Now, the downside is that it's going to cost a lot more in consumer goods to do that. So that would be something to do later in the game. Once your planet is completely built out and there's no more jobs, you could like basically produce on your planet. Any new additional pops that are created are going to become civilians. So you're going to have all these civilians on your planets. When the planets are completely maxed out, they might as well be producing something more for you other than trade and amenities. Have them also produce unity and science, for example. So that's something else you can do. But since we took prosperous unification, long-winded explanation of that, we do have a lot of pops on our planet that are currently essentially not working. We have 1.7K civilians. So we're in a situation right now where we have 1.7K civilians who are ready to work jobs, but we don't have buildings or districts for them to work yet. So quick breakdown, you have 4 districts: city, generator, mining, and agriculture. Okay, so you can click the build button here once we have enough minerals to do that, to build a city district. You can see if you build a city district, what it's going to give you here. It's going to give you, in this case, the way we have it set up, 20 physicist jobs, 20 biologist jobs, etc. So it's going to give you jobs, and it has a decrease of minus 400 housing there. Okay, so here, energy, right, generator districts. If you build one of these, you get housing plus 200, as well as 200 technician jobs. Mining, you get same thing, housing plus 200, miner jobs plus 200. So when you want to create more jobs for these 1.7K civilians to work, you either build a district, or you can also put another building down. And these empty slots is where you can put buildings. Now, on the city districts, you can specialize these two here into something different. If I click on this and I click here to change it, I don't have the minerals, so it's all grayed out. But once you have the minerals, you could change this to anything you want. And you want to specialize this on something. So what I eventually want to do is change this from archives, which is giving us scientist jobs and bureaucrat jobs. I want to change it to just a research enclave. So instead of 20 physicists, 20 biological, 20 engineering, and 40 bureaucrat jobs, I want it to just be a research enclave where it's giving me 30 physicists, 30 biologists, and 30 engineering jobs. But you can do anything. You could specialize in heavy industry. So it's going to give you 100 metallurgist jobs Instead of this one is mixed industry, it's giving you half. It's giving you 50 metallurgist and 50 artificer jobs. So you can specialize your 2 city districts here, and then depending on what you specialize in will depend on what buildings are available for those. Here, you can build any buildings you want in these slots, okay? Now, once you research it and you have at least one district built on generator, mining, and agriculture, you're going to open up 3 building slots here for each of these where you can have unique buildings specialized to those specific districts that boost jobs and output. Okay, that's just a quick breakdown, hopefully not too confusing, of your planet. With that, that's how I like to start the game. We unpause the game and we'll just get the first initial couple years in here in this quick tutorial, and we can speed things up a little bit too. All right, so because we took parliamentary system, as soon as we take over our first couple months here, our factions form. So what I like to do is just pause the game real quick, hop over here, and take a look at the factions. I like to sort by size. So it looks like the most number of pops are in this egalitarian faction, and you can see the issues for each faction here. And green means that they're happy. This is what, we're giving them everything that they want. So we can go to manage faction, and we can promote that faction. The next one down is egalitarian and xenophile. And if we click on that, you can see that there's a couple things that they want that they don't have. New contact, establishing communications with other civilizations will please this alien, and we will get around to that, so that's fine. Ruler has empire ethics, so they want our ruler to have one of their ethics, xenophile, egalitarian, I believe it is. So you can either promote or suppress different factions. So this one, we can promote that too. And then this one is a materialist faction. I probably won't just do anything with that, so it's not really a big deal. But you can see right out of the gate that we're already producing some unity here. And as we start the game, we're already at plus 25 on unity. So we've got our science ship out here surveying this world. We know this is a continental world. This is going to be our first world to colonize, okay? And so we know it's not going to take that science ship very long. Looks like there's our other continental world right down here. Perfect. So we're going to grab this one first because that's our choke point, and then we'll grab this one. So what I like to do is while the science ship is surveying this system, I'll go ahead and send my construction ship over there right away because we're going to have to build an outpost first before we can colonize it. And then we're going to go to our shipyard, and we're going to immediately build the colony ship because it's going to take like a year for that colony ship to get built. So we're just trying to stay ahead of the game, okay? Now, our first tradition is available. So this is key. This is what makes your empire very powerful in the game. All right, so we select here our first tradition. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can play this, and it's totally up to you, but this is the way I like to play for the most powerful build that we have constructed here. I'm going to first start by grabbing statecraft because what I want is amongst peers. That's going to give all counselors 150 experience gain upon completion of an agenda. If we go look at our council, you can see they're almost done with this first agenda that starts by default, infinite opportunities. You can see what it's giving us there. Our initial, as of right now, we're getting citizen pop happiness plus 4%. When this is done and we launch this agenda, we get citizen pop happiness plus 10%, and we'll be able to choose a new agenda. Now, I want to be able to launch that agenda with amongst peers. So I'm going to start by grabbing statecraft.
Council agenda
and when we grab it, you can see here, it shows you what you get when you grab it and when you finish it, okay? So we're going to save up enough unity to get amongst peers. All right, there it is. So we've got enough unity to grab amongst peers. I'm going to grab that. Yes. All right, so that's set. Now, when we get enough unity, now normally I would recommend going through an entire tradition tree before you pick another one, because when you finish a tradition tree, you're going to get access to Ascension perks. But I'm doing it this way because I just want amongst peers before that first council agenda finishes. Then I'm going to move into a new tradition, trade or mercantile, and we'll finish that, then come back and finish statecraft, and from then on we'll finish every tradition tree as we select it. So that's just how I like to do it. So you can see here right now we're going negative on housing. It's giving us a little overcrowding situation. So what we can do in this situation is we can come in here and you could build, see if you build a city district, it gives you housing plus 1,000. We could go ahead and build another city district. That might actually be a good way to go. That's going to give us physicist jobs, biologist jobs, etc., as we discussed. Another thing that you could do to increase your housing is build luxury residences. This is actually really nice because it not only gives you 1,500 in housing, but it also gives you 1,500 in amenities without any pops having to work those jobs. So for example, right here we have Halo Theaters. This is producing, yeah, it's producing some Unity, not very much, but it is producing 2,500 in amenities. And we only have 2.9K in amenities. So it's producing the bulk of our amenities, but pops are having to work those jobs to produce those amenities. Now, right now, we're not really short on pops, so I'm just going to leave that for now. But what I am going to do is just go ahead and build another city district, because that's going to give us increased housing and more jobs, which our 1.7K pops that are civilians just waiting to work can work. So let's go ahead and build that city district. Now you can see here, we have that monthly trade going. We have an excess of 10 trades still. If we go up here, we can probably increase the amount of minerals we're buying. Now, the other thing is that, look, we're producing plus 34 food, okay? We don't need that much surplus in food, so we can sell some of that, right? We can come in here, choose food, we're selling it, and let's just sell 30 of that. That's going to offset. Now, our trade's going to come back up. It's plus 3 right now. Now it's plus 24, so that means we could buy some more minerals. Let's try to buy 35. All right, now our next tradition is available. Let's come over here. So instead of finishing statecraft, I'm going to jump into the next tree, and I'm going to go to mercantile. You can see here adoption. So adoption effects gives us the council agenda open markets, upkeep from traders minus 20%, and then when we finish all of these in the tradition tree, we get monthly trade plus 10%, et cetera, et cetera. What I'm looking for first is adaptive economic policies. So let's grab that, and we have enough to go ahead and grab it now. We're going to grab adaptive economic policies. What that allows us to do is we can convert, so we can use marketplace of ideas trade policy, which allows us to convert a portion of our trade into consumer goods in Unity. So we go to policies and edicts. We're going to trade policy, marketplace of ideas. 50% of our collected trade earns us Unity. That's what we want to do. So you can see our Unity generation now is at 53. We'll enable that, and we'll see that jump up a little bit there. 72. Awesome. Now we're really producing some Unity. While I'm thinking about it, let's come over here and recruit the scientist. All right. Pause the game real quick. Things are moving fast on this fast speed. We're going to change out this scientist with, maybe I should have checked to see what trait. He didn't get it. Okay, awesome. So the scientists that we have right now, let's choose roamer so they can explore things faster. And then we're going to swap out this scientist with the one here that we just recruited that has this counselor trait plus 3%. Awesome. So that's stacking. So you can see that we're getting plus 13% in research speed right there. All right. So you're going to start getting all these pop-ups. Obviously, read through those as you wish. So our first council agenda is completed. We're going to launch it by clicking that, and we're going to click here to select our next one. I generally go for Evolving Society next. Gives us monthly Unity plus 10% initially, and then upon completion, when we launch it, we get monthly Unity plus 40%. Awesome. That's good. Next tradition, I'm going to choose this one because we get increased trade for all those civilians that we currently have. That's going to be helpful. And then we'll just work through the rest of the mercantile tree. Now you can see since we took amongst peers, once we launch that council agenda, all of our leaders are due for an upgrade, a level up. So here's our Chancellor. We're going Spark of Genius 2. Generally, it's better to level up, but it really depends on the situation. In this case, definitely going to level up. We get Spark of Genius 2, which is research speed plus 6%. Looking at research now, it's plus 13%. Level that up, goes to 16. Awesome. Next leader, Minister of Defense. They do have a counselor trait, which is defense platform hull damage increase. That's nice, especially if you want to go the defensive route. From these, I would say this one's probably a good one. Ship weapons damage plus 5%, army damage plus 5%. Definitely a good one to pick there for strategy and military. And this is our Minister of State. They are currently governing Earth. So you have architectural interests, which is a great one to have. Infrastructure upkeep minus 20% and build speed plus 20%. That's huge. If you're having problems with crime, this would be a good one to take. I'm going to go for architectural interest. Okay. So that's good. We have our colony ship built. I'm going to just choose the science route. So we have our colony ship built. This star system has been surveyed. Let's go ahead and survey this one and this one, because generally we want to build outposts in a line. If you jump a star system, it's going to cost more influence. It costs influence and alloys to build a an outpost. All right, so that's done. Let's get our construction ship building this outpost right there, and let's go ahead and move our colony ship over there. In the meantime, let's get our military ship moving out into the galaxy to explore to see what's around us. Perfect. Okay, so we're right at 30, a little over 30 minutes on the video. That's how you get started. From here, the way that I would normally keep playing is I would go ahead and choose, let me just increase my influence or my unity so I can access this. So from here, after I finish mercantile, I would get an ascension perk, and then let me see if I can get enough unity to grab an ascension perk real quick for you just for this video. All right, there we go. All right, so once I finish mercantile, I would come in here and choose my first ascension perk. Unity, one vision's good. You get monthly unity plus 10%. That's a good one to take. Technological ascendancy is another good one. It gives you a plus 10% research speed across the board and plus 50% chance for drawing rare research technologies. But it also gives you the ability in your policies to specifically, I guess, tune your research into whatever category you want. So that's a good one. Executive Vigor is also good. Council Agenda Speed plus 15% and Edict Fund plus 100%. And I didn't talk about that. Let me talk about that in just a minute. But that's a good one to take. In the early game, playing like this, I'd probably go for one vision. Anyway, so this is how I'd continue to play, right? I'd work through Statecraft, finish that out, maybe take one vision first, next Technological Ascendancy once you finish Statecraft. And then for the next one, I would, again, it depends on if you want to be aggressive, if you want to build big fleets. Supremacy is a good one to take, but focusing on your economy and research in the early game is going to be key. So the next one I would probably take is Prosperity. That's going to give you huge buffs to your economy. And then after that, maybe start going into something like Supremacy. Now, depending on what DLCs you're running, you're going to be able to choose an Ascension path. If you have the newer DLCs that give you the option of like cloning, mutation, cloning is probably going to be the most powerful one to take. Otherwise, for your Ascension path. Otherwise, other options would be like psionics is a good one. You could also do. Let's see, I don't see it on here. I guess it's not going to be visible until it's available. But another one you could do is you can take the genetic path where you can convert or like genetically alter your species. So you have a lot of different ascension paths that you can take your empire down, and it really depends on how you want to play the game. So I can't explain in the most generic video possible which one to choose. But almost every game, I'm always taking Statecraft, Mercantile, Prosperity, and Supremacy. Those are all like pretty much must picks in every playthrough, just about. So that's your traditions, and depending on which direction you want to go from there, that's how I would handle that. Now, lastly, what I didn't talk about was edicts. So edicts are things that they're going to be different things that you can enable that's going to give you a boost to your economy or whatever it may be. There's like, for example, capacity subsidies that will become available once you research it, and it will allow you to enable that edict to increase the amount of energy generation that you're producing, which can be super helpful. They cost unity. Now you have an edict fund here, and depending on how much, depending on what you choose, for example, in your traditions, if you choose Executive Vigor, you see the Edict Fund is plus 100. So if we were to choose that, if we go back to here, we would have 170 in this Edict Fund. We don't really need it right now because we don't have a lot of edicts to choose from, but eventually you're going to have a lot of different edicts that you might want to run, and the more edict fund you have, the more edicts that you can run without eating into your Unity generation. So we're generating 78 Unity per month. If I had enough edicts to run that cost more than my fund here of 70, whatever excess I'm running over is going to be pulled out of what I'm generating. So just something to keep in mind there. It can be helpful to have a large edict fund if you're planning to run a lot of different edicts. But edicts, just think of it as a way to boost either your economy, your military. They're huge ways to help you out in the game. So don't forget to come and look at your edicts and enable them as they become available, because they will dramatically help you in your game. Beyond that, I think I've pretty much covered everything. I'm sure I missed something, and there's a lot of later game mechanics that obviously we're not even going over in this video. But again, prioritize minerals in the early game. You just want to produce enough food to keep your pops fed. You don't need a huge surplus there. Same thing with consumer goods. You only need enough to keep your jobs up and running and your pops requirement. You don't need a huge surplus there. Alloys, minerals, energy, these all three, you want surpluses, especially alloys. The more surplus you can have in alloys, the quicker you can build ships, the quicker you can defend yourself or conquer the galaxy, etc. Ships are going to cost energy. Star bases, you can see ships, stations, star bases, buildings, and districts cost energy. When you build a huge navy, it's going to take a crap ton of energy. So energy is something you want a huge surplus on, especially later in the game. And then the rest of it, we talked about Unity. Influence is going to be used for a lot of different things, and this is something that you can't like build a building to create yourself. This is something that's generated from, you can read about it here, but it's a rare type of thing that it can be a little bit annoying when you don't have enough influence. So it's just something to keep in mind. That's another one of your resources there. So that's it. Hopefully you have fun, and thanks for watching.